Hey, this is Max with A1 Website Pro. Welcome to logo creation. So logos, are very difficult to create because they have to be so simple. And this is going to be part of the free tutorial because this is going to be a little bit longer. I'm using Photoshop, but this is what the client sent me, DJWH Entertainment, and we're going to base the logo off this. So what I did was I went to Google Images and I found this little record thing since he wants to go along with the record, and you can see that I put that here. Okay, so we want to make this, we want to bring this logo to life, and the things that you have to remember about a logo is use 3 to 4 colors max. You don't want to use any gimmicky fonts, and you just want it to look cool. So that's what we're going to do in this Photoshop tutorial. Okay, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get rid of all this white background, and I want to make it transparent. You can kind of see what transparency looks like in Photoshop here. So number one, I can just unlock this layer like this and just delete that background layer. Okay, and what I want to do is select this layer, and I'm going to hit my quick selection tool, and I'm going to zoom in by holding my alternate button down on my keyboard and come in, and I just want the record to be selected, okay, and everything that's within the record. Now you can see that it has the record selected, but I want to make sure that it has a smooth radius. So I'm going to go up here to Refine Edge, and I'm going to use the Smart Radius, and I'm going to smooth the edges. I'm going to use a little bit of contrast there, maybe feather the edges a little bit. So I make sure that I get a nice clean round circle, and I'm going to select OK. Okay, now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to select the inverse, and I'm going to hit my delete button on my keyboard, and that deletes all of the background around it. I'll hold my alternate button down, zoom out, and it's looking like I have a pretty nice selection there. So the next thing I want to do is I want to use my crop tool, and I want to come in here and just make it bigger on my screen, and so I could look at more of the details. So the original logo was like this, DJWH, so and had that record, but we want to use something just to make it look pretty cool. Now what I want to do is get rid of that little white hole on the inside, make it transparent too. By the way, these little eyes over here, when you click on them, it makes that layer disappear and the next layer come on. Like if I wanted this layer to be on top of this layer, what I would do is I drag it and see how it places it on top of that layer. So that's a little quick trick for you. So let's get rid of that little hole. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and there's these different tools that I have. I want my Elliptical Marquee tool, okay, in Photoshop. I'm going to get rid of my timeline thing here so I can make the image bigger, and I'm going to hold my Alt button down on my keyboard and roll in with my mouse so I could see the white hole a little bit better. And what I want to do is trace this image around here. Now if I use my up and down arrows on my keyboard, I can move it back and forth. Okay, and I just want to delete that center hole out of the middle there. And you notice that I had this layer selected whenever I hit delete, but I have to have this layer selected right here for this tool to take effect. So I'm going to hit delete like that, and I'm going to just click outside of the picture and hold my Alt button down and zoom out and see what that looks like. And I'm satisfied with that. That's a nice round hole. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is this blue color here. I'm going to see if I can enhance it a little bit. So I'm going to take my magic wand tool. I'm going to hit in there. Now, if you're not getting the effect that you want or the selection that you want, you can always adjust your tolerance level. For instance, I'll put this at 11, and you'll see that I only get different sections of this blue. So you just raise it up, and I found that 55 worked pretty good for me to get all of those pixels within that tool. The next thing I'm going to do is go back to my Refine Edge tool, and it looks pretty good, but I'm going to use a Smart Radius because the edges are looking a little rocky there, so all my edges should be a little bit smoother. And I find if I adjust the smoothness and the edge, I'm able to get that effect, and click OK. Alright, so now what I want to do is change the color, or enhance this a little bit more. So I could go up here to Image, Adjustments, my Hue and Saturation, and I could start messing around with that little blue color in there, and I could actually change it around. You know, purple looks pretty cool. Now he was onto the green a little bit there with his lettering. So even though I don't like to use green, I'd rather use blue. Maybe I could just try maybe a greenish blue type of a thing, and then increase my saturation a little bit, darken it up, because it just looks cool. That's why. That's because. All right, so I'm able to go in there and edit those pixels within that selection tool, and that's a really cool thing to do. All right, now the next thing is, if we look at his logo again, he's using DJHH. Now see these fonts here on a logo, unless you're just going to like use one big letter. If you're using straight fonts, you just want to use something like Arial or Times New Roman, or something that's not funky and gimmicky. You want to use something that looks cool, but it's not funky and gimmicky. So I'm going to go here, and I want to use a white text on this because I just think that it would look good. I'm going to click OK. Or down here you could change your color. The color for white is FFF, and that way you're getting pure white, because we're only using 3 colors. See, we already have black, we already have white, or shades of gray, and then we have this blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, I'm going to look for a font, maybe Times New Roman. That's a really easy font to read, and we're going to just start typing in here DJ double H, maybe something like that. All right, now the thing about fonts is you can have a lot of fun with fonts in Photoshop, and one of the things that I like to do, especially like on a record or something like this, is I like to highlight all the fonts and bend them, because it's kind of cool to bend stuff, right? So we have DJHH, and that's almost perfect, but I can make it a little bit better and select OK. Now if I wanted to move this down a little bit, I could. All right. Maybe I want to adjust that just a little bit more to give it some more roundness to it. So let me go back to my my arc tool here. I'm just going to bend it up a little bit more. See, and here's we could have horizontal distortion. Let me show you what that is. You can make the left or the right side bigger, but I kind of like it right in the middle. And then the vertical distortion is the same thing, but you're doing it vertically, okay? So, and maybe we could just have a hint of that, just like that there, okay? Now, the other thing that I like to do in Photoshop is I really like to use the effects that Photoshop has installed. So what you do to use the effects is you double-click on this layer, and you're going to get something like this here. It's a little panel, and you can see what Bevel Emboss would look like, or Bevel Emboss with a contour. Okay, and then if you want to edit those different things, you just click on it, and you can say inner bevel, outer bevel, and this almost kind of looks like DJHH as part of the record, and you could increase that a little bit, but we don't want too much detail because this is just a logo, right? So we might not even use that. Let me go ahead and look at these different things. The best thing to do is just kind of like experiment around. I'm going to use a drop shadow here, and maybe I'll grab this color that we used in the middle. Alright, so it's kind of accenting off of that color. We're still using the same color, and take this distance, maybe increase the spread a little bit, increase the size. And let me go ahead and use that bevel emboss because it just looks so cool. Maybe instead of outer bevel, I'll use that inner bevel. And that's kind of nice. But the image is looking a little bit blurry. That could be because of my pixels here. Let me go ahead and look at these different things. Now stroke will put a little black line around the edge of the text, which is sometimes if you want to get some definition, that's nice to do. Maybe just a little hint of it. And I'm just not really crazy about that drop shadow yet. I'm going to try to use black. Now the code for black is 000000. Okay, I'm going to click OK. Now that kind of looks a little bit sharper. Now on my Bevel Emboss, you see how the light is going up, but the light on the record seems like it's going down. Well, that's your global lighting angles. And here you could change the angle of the Bevel Emboss just by clicking around this little circle. So let me try to get something that looks pretty cool here. All right. Now you can actually get your different gloss things by clicking this, and I really like that one. That one just makes it, sets it off a little bit. And I'm still using my 3 color limit, you know, different shades, and maybe I want to make DJ Double H a little bit bigger, and so I'm going to just do this, stretch it around there a little bit. Now the other thing that I can do, which is kind of cool sometimes to do, is there's these filters that you have in Photoshop, and there's one that's called Wind, and let me see if I can find it for you here. Yes, here it is, right here, Wind. So you'll notice I'll have to resaturize this layer, convert it to a smart object. I'm going to go ahead and convert it to a smart object, and I'll get a little box that pops up like this. Now it's going to be kind of hard for me to see, all right, but here you can see staggered, wind, okay, direction from the left or direction from the right. Let me try it from the right just to see what it looks like. And so I'm starting to get something that looks pretty cool here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some arrows on my key and try and move it over, because I would like to keep the lettering on the record itself, DJ Double H. And this is really going to help me whenever I start writing the theme or creating the mock-up theme for the website. So I'm kind of liking that. Maybe right here below the logo, I could put a website if I'm going to like use it in a letterhead, like djdoubleh.com or something like that. But just for the logo, I think that I'm just going to put DJ Double H, and maybe I'll find like some music notes to put down here. And so I'm going to go to my Google image search, okay, and I'm going to put music notes, and just to see, give me some ideas about what's out there as far as music notes go. And this is pretty cool. I like this. You know, it has a transparent background. Now let me show you a little trick that I use, because if I drag and I drop this on Photoshop, it's just going to give me that white background. And in fact, let me right click, copy, and then I'm just going to paste it in there. And you see how it didn't bring it over the way that I had hoped it to do. So I'm going to hit Control Z. So the way you could get around that is bring up an empty folder, right, and drag and drop that image into the folder. Okay. Next, so you can preserve the transparency background, then take and drag it onto your Photoshop, which now I have those image with the transparency background. Okay. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to have to make those music notes white. Okay, but I'm going to show you a little trick for that too. I have to place the image, so I'm going to place that image. Now I can't see them, but did you notice after I placed it, the edges got smoother? So that's another thing that happens whenever you import an image. So I'm going to double click on this, and that's going to bring me my layer styles back up. I'm going to use this color overlay, and instead of red, I'm going to hit white, because those are my colors for my logo. Just like that. I'm going to hit OK. Now it's starting to look pretty cool. Alright, now I might want to use that Bevel Emboss, you know, just make it look kind of nice. And I can increase and decrease the depth of the Bevel Emboss here, see? Alright, so I want to definitely get that, and I could choose the direction up or down for my Bevel Emboss. I kind of like the down direction. And I like to make the music notes stand out a little bit. So one thing that I want to do is I'm going to put that little stroke on them, okay, that we talked about, but I don't want it to be 6 pixels. I just want a little hint of it. And then I'm going to use my drop shadow, okay, kind of make them stand out. I'm going to select the normal and maybe change the angle on it a little bit. Let me hit Control Z because I kind of changed it on everything there, because I don't want to use the global light on these. I want to use something a little bit different. So maybe have the maybe kind of have them reflected, and then so you can see the notes down there a little bit better. Okay, and maybe I want to change that color. We'll try the blue again. No, I don't like the blue. Let's try let's just keep it black. Okay, select OK. Alright, so we could actually use a gradient overlay on this instead of the color overlay, and I'll show you how to change that around here. Now this is kind of getting away from my color usage, so I'm not going to be able to do what I thought that I could do. But a lot of times you can get a really cool effect with these different gradient overlays. Here's the pattern overlay. Now that's cool, using that outer glow, but instead of using this yellow, I'm going to use white. Okay, use all white, or I could possibly even use this color for that, and that actually looks pretty good. I'm going to click OK. Now there, I could actually use a gradient for that overlay, and let me try the normal way, see if it looks any better. Maybe increase the spread a little bit, make the size just like that. So we're operating off of that color there. I'm still sticking within my 3 colors, right? And I know there's gradients. Gradients could technically be different colors, but we want this thing to look good. So here's my logo for DJHH, and I'm going to base the rest of my mock-up theme on this DJHH logo for my client.